Can I start by asking you about the opposition that you're going to face in the autumn tests, and just if there is one common theme that runs throughout, the three teams that you're going to face, which is Argentina, New Zealand and Tonga, what's similar about all three teams that you'll face? Johnny?
It'll be three very difficult test matches. I think the way Argentina have shown they've adapted over the last couple of years, although we played them in the summer, it'll be a completely different side that we play against. They've raised their game the way they've been playing in the Rugby Championship. New Zealand, you know exactly what you're getting when you play the All Blacks, and I think for maybe quite a few Scottish supporters, they won't really understand the talent and the pool of players that Tonga also possess. So across the board, there are going to be three very difficult test matches.
Okay, so probably the physicality is maybe one of the themes that runs through all three teams, but is there anything that actually marks them out as slightly different from each other? If you were to take Argentina, it's always been the kind of received wisdom that was a team that was very, very strong up front, and that's where it prided itself on the way it played. But they've added a lot to that, perhaps that perception of how they played. They're a different team now.
Yeah, I think that team has evolved over the last, since maybe 2007 World Cup. I think they had a group of players that had been together for a long time, guys like Pichot, Contepone, Roncero, those guys that had been there a long time, and they played a more limited game plan but very effective. But now those guys have moved on. They've brought in a bunch of new talented young players that have had a couple of years now, and some of the backs that they have are unbelievably dangerous. There's more of a balance to the game that they play, and obviously now that they're playing the Rugby Championship, they're playing that high intensity rugby week in, week out against teams who are playing at such a high level, and I think they've had to adapt to survive, and getting their first win against Australia has proved that they are making up the ground that they had to make up in that competition.
It's interesting that they've had that spur from the Championship. If you look at Tonga and the night that they beat France in the World Cup, the last World Cup, that seems to have been a kind of defining moment for their game, because they don't seem to have looked back from that. They've evolved since that night.
Massively so, and I think the last time we played them we lost up in Aberdeen, didn't we? So we know exactly what we're up against. I play against quite a few of the Tongan boys in the top 14. They've got some phenomenal athletes, some phenomenal players, so it'll be incredibly difficult for us to match them physically and then to try and dominate them with the way we want to play.
I think when you play against some of the island teams, Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, they have some of the most brilliant individuals that you'll ever see play rugby. And they are all spread out around the world. Some of them play in the Southern Hemisphere, a lot of them play in Europe these days. But physically they're unbelievably talented, just that natural physical ability. But because they are more used to professional rugby, they're playing in big teams in Europe and in the Southern Hemisphere, they can come together quicker, I think, and produce performances. And being able to beat France in a World Cup, they obviously beat Scotland up in Pittodrie last time round, and they're very, very dangerous, and all these teams they have such talented individual players that if they come together on the day, they're very, very tough to beat.
In terms of New Zealand, it's not expect the unexpected. What do New Zealand do well? What is it? Is it basics? Is it just the simple beauty of a game of rugby when it's done right and it's done, basically very, very well indeed?
I think they do the basics exceptionally well. They do everything at such pace and intensity and ferocity that's what you struggle with. They're not doing anything different to the other teams, but they're doing things so brilliantly well. And that power that they have up front, everything is done very, very quickly, and it's very, very powerful. So if you are not up to speed very quickly, you can find yourself chasing the game very, very quickly. To me, that's what marks them out. They make very few mistakes. They're all very good decision makers from 1 to 15, and they have prop forwards that can handle the ball as well as the centre. So there's threats all over the pitch. No matter what position they find themselves in, they're able to come up with the right decisions and make the right plays. And if you switch off, you make one mistake, then they'll punish you.
We're in Newcastle, and that's going to be the base for Scotland in the next World Cup in 2015. There's 2 games here, there's Samoa and South Africa. How useful has it been to come down here, have a quick look, have a look at the pitch, which is a good pitch? I think it's in a good place. Has that been a kind of useful exercise? I know focus is on the autumn test, but just to get a feel of it.
I think it's been great, and not just with a look ahead to the World Cup, just to go and do something completely different, to break the cycles that we used to before. I know most people are, or the Edinburgh boys are used to being in Murrayfield every day, so for them it's a nice break, it's something completely different. For the boys from Glasgow, they get to go away and see something completely different. And as you said, it gives us a little bit of a taste of what to expect if we're picked to be in the World Cup squad. But for now, it's just really nice to be somewhere different, to be back together as a group and to work on the things that we want to take forward and do well over the next 3 games.
How much do you know about what you're going to do before you come into camp? I mean, is it a new experience when you come in each time, or are you in some way prepared for what you're going to face when you get here?
I think it's new this time because there's a new coach, Cusiter, so a lot of the guys toured the summer with him. I didn't, and they got to know then. But I think there was a bit of a continuation from what happened in the Six Nations. But now it's a new game plan, new ideas, and everything's going to be implemented. So there's a lot of information to try and take on in this 3 days. Because the reality is you don't have long together. We've got this 3 days. We meet up Sunday night, and then into test week. So you've got to try and put those plans into practice really quickly, and so it becomes automatic because you don't really have time to think out on the pitch. You have to know what you're doing so you can perform and execute. But for me, because it's the start of this year leads right through to the World Cup, the fact that we're here in Newcastle, that we have a new coach, it feels like the start of a mini cycle. That we have this year to prove ourselves, to get some results, to build momentum up to the World Cup. And for me, it's quite nice to start here, to be here in Newcastle where the squad will be based, and we've all had a taste of it. And obviously we want to perform, we want Scotland to do well, and we want to be involved. Is
it nice to have that kind of, I don't want to overemphasise it as a change of regime, but just nice to have a kind of sense that there's a freshness about coming in. There's a lot of young players in the squad as well, so that must be good. It just makes it different.
Yeah, I think, as Chris said, the summer for Vern and for Scott was almost like a transition. It was called sort of a handing of the reins, but Vern was there to see how we were all personality types, what kind of players we were, who he had in the group, while still continuing with some of Jono's ideas. And as Chris has said, now it's much more weighted towards Vern. Scott's taking a back seat, and now we get to see how we're going to play over the next year. And that's the exciting thing for us. It's been completely different, an eye-opener and something completely fresh.
Edinburgh and Glasgow, I mean, I know everybody's come in playing the games. Jim's still sporting the black eye from the match against Munster for Sarries, but Glasgow and Edinburgh come in after 2 wins in Europe, and Glasgow in particular, the champions European Cup. As Glasgow X's, and you look on that side, that the way they're playing, what have you made of their progress so far this season?
I think they've kicked on from where they finished off last year, really consistent, really tough to beat, and they're playing probably the best rugby they've played in terms of their attack. The backs are scoring really good tries. The forwards are so abrasive, and they work so hard that they've just been able to, even when they haven't played well, they've ground out results, and when they have played well, they've been spectacular results. And you can see those guys have that confidence. Obviously that confidence you need that in international rugby, and there will be Glasgow guys in the team, and they have that winning habit, which is great to get. When you're in that groove and everything, you go on the pitch confident, you know that you can win. It's a great place to be. So I think as we both played for them, they've moved on unbelievably well, and it's great to see them flying the flag for Scottish rugby and doing so well, and getting respect from outside Scotland. Because if you know Glasgow, you know they're a good team, but now I think the rest of Europe is starting to sit up and go, actually, they are the real deal. And I hope they can kick on the season and keep winning in Europe and keep winning in the league and do something special.
If you're a fan coming along for the matches against, obviously you want to see Scotland win, but can you give a little insight into how you think, without giving too much away, how Scotland will play? What areas of the game do you think Scotland will put particular emphasis on in the Scotland Test period?
Are very basic things, so getting away from mauls, simple things like that, but then once we actually keep the ball, playing a bit more with it, with a bit more structure and a bit more sense, and causing the defence a bit more trouble. Hopefully we'll keep the ball in hand and score a few tries, because that's what everyone wants to see, isn't it?